welcome back to Cooking with Bill. It's been a while since I've done a meat product for you, so we're going to actually go back to one that we've done a couple videos on, which is a beef brisket, but we're going to have a switch to this. We're going to take a beef brisket and we're going to actually cut off what's called the flat, which is the smaller side of the brisket, and then we're going to make a brine for it. And what we're doing is we're actually pickling the meat over about a 5-day period. And this brine is going to end up making you have a pastrami when you're done. So instead of doing a standard beef brisket where we just season the outside and smoke it, we're actually brining this like we would do a turkey with a specific brine. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to very quickly go through what goes in the brine. I've already made it. It's in the fridge, so I'm not going to worry about showing you exactly how to dump everything together. And it's a very simple recipe. You're going to take 3 quarts of water, put it in a big pan, like a multi-quart pot. You're going to heat it up. You're going to throw in 1 cup of a Morton's kosher salt. Okay, 1 cup. And I'll put this at the end of the video. We're going to put in a 1/4 cup of curing salt. Now this is different than like a pink salt or Himalayan or even a table salt. This is a curing salt. It's for home meat curing. They have some that are called like Instacure. There's a Prague Mix #1. You might just find curing salt like this, but this is not like a Himalayan salt. So make sure you know the difference in that. So we're going to put about a 1/4 cup of that in. We're going to take a cup of regular granulated sugar. We're going to take a 1/2 cup of brown sugar packed, okay? Because if you don't pack it, it's the difference in weight. We're going to take about a 1/4 cup of honey. We're going to take 2 tablespoons of a pickling spice. Now you can get the McCormick's pickling spice, works quite well. We're going to take 1 tablespoon of coriander seeds. Okay, now coriander, that is what makes up when you're having cilantro. The plant itself is cilantro, but this is a seed and it's called coriander. And then the last thing we'll put in is mustard seed. So we're going to have a tablespoon of the coriander, a tablespoon of the whole mustard seed. We're going to take about 4, maybe 5 cloves of garlic and mince it up. And we're going to put all that into that pot and let it boil and get all of the sugars to dissolve completely, get all the things married together. Now once you've done that, you're going to set it aside, let it cool, and then you're going to add about 3 more quarts of cold water. So you'll end up with about 6 quarts of water. Now, when you're going to take your brisket, what we're going to do is we're going to sever it at about a decent flat size. Before this starts really bulking up to the fatter side of the brisket, we're going to cut it and leave about 1/4 of an inch of the fat all the way around it. And we're going to put it into the brine. Now you can do brining a number of different ways. You can get a big plastic container that fits it, pour it all in, put it in your refrigerator. You can put it in a cooler, but just make sure you have ice in it unless you're setting it outside in the winter, because you want to keep that temperature of that meat cold. Or you can do like I did. I got a turkey brining bag, and it's basically a giant Ziploc bag. Put it all in there, squeeze the air out, zip tied it, and I even wrapped some tape around it and put it in the refrigerator. Now, when you put that in the refrigerator, you're going to turn it over once a day, and so it makes sure that all those spices and stuff are getting into the meat. Now, it shouldn't be too salty, even though you have salt in it. Anytime you've ever done a brine for a turkey, it doesn't taste real salty when you're done, because you've got a lot of meat here. Okay, and a cup of salt is not a lot of salt for a brine, especially since a lot of it's still going to be in the brine when you dump it off. Okay, so let's talk about the brisket. Now, I go to Costco, I get my briskets there. This is a beef brisket. They do a pretty good job in getting their briskets, but I will say you have a choice. You can do like I do, and I buy the full brisket. And when you get a full brisket, you've got a lot of fat. Okay, and with that fat means you've got to do the trimming, because you don't want to have that much fat on the meat. So what I would do is I would take this, as I said, somewhere around here where it's starting to thicken up. Okay, and then you would just cut this and just cut through the meat. Make sure you have a decent knife so it'll cut easily. Okay, so once we've cut through the meat and we've gotten our flat, we're going to look for any big hunks of fat. And if you have a dog at home, they're helping you look for those hunks of fat. They absolutely love having fat, especially when you cook it and render it down a little bit. I tend to smoke it, and then the dogs get a really nice treat. Because as you can see here, this has a fairly decent fat cap on it. And so you want to make sure that you're getting it down to about 1/4 of an inch. So you don't just have a big glob of fat when you're eating. And for the most part, you'll see occasionally, when you're looking at it, you'll see a vein. See that vein right there? And you'll want to take that vein out as well if it's thick enough. Again, if it's not, just leave it. But I like to get anything that's a major part of fat at least cut down to a reasonable amount. So there you are. And there is your meat ready to become a pastrami. Not a lot of fat on it. Throw it in the brine, put it in your refrigerator, turn it over every day, and after about 5 days you're going to take it out. We'll put another little rub on it and we'll put it in the smoker. When we're done with all this, I'm going to show you what the pastrami looks like when it's cooked. But for now, that's the first part. Okay folks, so here is the pastrami. Now you can tell it's that flat that we cut, had in the brine for 5 days. So we'll show you this after we finish smoking it. It's going to take somewhere around probably 7-8 hours at least. And we're going to also do our briskets at the same time. Did a little modification here to my Traeger. Actually took and put an upside down roasting rack on my grill, so I have a double-decker smoker at the moment. So I'll show you once I get everything put on here. So this is a meat night. Brisket and pastrami. Okay guys, it's about 2 in the morning. We're coming out to check on our meats. Figure it's getting up towards about 160 degrees, so we're going to wrap all these things in double wrap of aluminum foil, let them finish up. So we're going to keep going from here. Let me show you what it looks like. Okay. So you can see each of them, they're coming out really nice. We're going to take a instant read thermometer. Close enough. Yeah. Time to wrap. Put them on, let them finish. Alright, you saw me cut up the flat off the main brisket. We took that, we put that after trimming the fat off, we put that in a brining bag. We put that brine that we made up of all those different ingredients. We let it sit in the refrigerator for 5 days, flipping it over every day. Some people like to actually cut into the meat with a knife or a fork to open it up and get more of that brine into the meat. The next thing we did is we took coriander seed, about 1/4 cup, about 2 tablespoons of black pepper corns, and then I used a mortar and pestle like this and ground this up. But you could also use just a regular spice grinder, or you can buy everything pre-ground. You didn't want it to be a powder though, so you want it to be a rough grind. And then we took a little bit of smoked paprika, about another 2 tablespoons of that. Mixed that together as our rub. When we took the pastrami brisket out of the brine, we did a paper towel to soak up any excess brine. we took the mixture, put it all over the pastrami, and put it in the smoker just like we would do a brisket. I actually ran all the briskets and the pastrami at the same time. It turned out they all cooked at about the same speed, even though the back end of the brisket was thicker. I guess because it was cut off of the flat, it had more surface area. They all cooked within about 12 hours. Everything was done. Now, typically, if you look it up, they say about an hour per pound for your pastrami or for a flat. But you do want to get that up to about 195 to 200 degree temperature. It's going to cook a little bit more when you take it off. And so whatever that takes, so if it takes you 8 hours for 8 pounds, or if it takes you 12 hours for 8 pounds, like it was freezing cold all last night, that could have had a difference in how it actually smoked. Now the other thing you want to do is anytime you're cooking with meat, you want to let it rest. So you bring it in the house, you leave it in the pan, you wrap it up, you put it in the refrigerator, whatever you're going to do. If you eat it that time when you're taking it off the smoker, let it rest for at least a half hour. You want all the juices to go back up into the meat fibers so you have a very juicy piece of meat. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a gray piece of meat that's no good. Now, I'm going to go ahead and cut into this. Now, again, this is our pastrami. If you can see that, that is a beautiful piece of meat. Now, it's still got some of that fat cap on it. Some people like that. Some people will cut that off. But I'm just going to tell you, that is phenomenal. I'm going to have another bite. Sorry, got to do it. So, pastrami, it's just another brisket. So, if you've liked the show, please like it on Facebook, subscribe to it on YouTube, give me some comments, give me some feedback. I post pictures as I'm doing this on both Facebook and Instagram. You can comment there as well. I hope you've enjoyed the cooking show. We will be back doing more as the weeks come along. This is Cooking with Bill, and we'll see you back here in the kitchen.